Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Real Franchise, a podcast that goes where others simply won't. An unfiltered view of franchising, business, mindset, and everything that we stand for when it comes to supporting a community of small business owners. Join me, Rhiannon, the CEO for James Home Services Australia, and Justin, one of our owners, as we unpack it all with no topics off limits. Today, Justin, we're talking about franchising in a way that I've personally never heard franchising be talked about before, which is not new territory for us. We often throw very different angles on franchising. We're actually talking about using a franchise network as a stepping stone. Now, I don't know, we might get crucified a little bit by the industry because I think one of the biggest misconceptions about franchising is that once you've signed on the dotted line, you are stuck for the entirety of your term. Now, last week we spoke about how easy it is to get out of a franchise agreement. And this week we're going to back that up with how you can actually use franchising as a stepping stone into business and to allow yourself to grow the sorts of skills that might actually head you in the right direction of your dream business eventually.
Yeah.
Justin, tell me about the very first house you bought.
It was a tiny little miner's cottage, it was called, in North Queensland.
Yeah.
A little tiny 3-bedroom place, 1 bathroom.
Would you have described it at the time as your dream home?
Definitely not, but we loved it. It was a great first home.
Yeah. My experience was similar. The first house I bought was we paid less than $200,000 for. And boy, oh boy, it was run down. It was a very modest little 3-bedder in a rural town in Victoria, way out west. And it was a lot of work to make it livable. The point I'm making is that you don't buy your dream home first.
Correct.
Justin, what do? What if we're going to talk about using franchising as a stepping stone? I think a natural analogy is the property market and the property ladder. So what do people do? How do people get from their little miner's cottage and their little 3-bedder needs a big reno? How do you get from there to your dream home?
Well, practically, when you think about it, it's, you buy, you learn. You know, you're going in because you don't have much behind you in most cases. I know we didn't. We were fairly newly married. And you're learning with as low cost as possible because that's probably all you can afford. And then you learn new skills. You know, we've renovated a few. I know you have. You've built one yourself. But you know, all these things that you thought, there's no way I could do that, or I have no idea how to do that, you actually learn. And so then you sell, you make some money, and you go to the next home that's better. And you've got these skills that you've learned on the journey that you can then apply, do the same thing over, but now your increase is on a higher property value, so you walk away with more. And you keep doing that until you end up in a nice place, you know, where you've like, wow, this is fantastic.
Yeah. I think that's such a common journey in the property market in Australia for so many, right? So many of my friends bought similar to what I did. You know, we bought what we could afford, where we could afford it. We didn't go in at top of market. We were terrified of a massive mortgage. And then we worked really hard to A, pay the mortgage that we did have off as quickly as possible, but B, to try and build value so that when we sold, we were selling for more than what we bought for, right? And I think that's a really great way to actually talk about starting a business because I'll probably throw to you again for this in a second, but there are so many fears in people that you speak to and Bella speak to, you know, about starting a business. You know, some of the common ones are, is this going to work? And I don't know what I'm doing. And I think those sorts of fears hold a lot of people back from actually starting a business. But what if there was a way that you could actually get in on the bottom rung and you had a safe space to learn? Do you think that some of the big concerns that people share with you in that first couple of calls that you have with them might be alleviated if there was actually a property ladder for businesses?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think for most of us, the fears that we have in starting our own business are, I think we're thinking of the dream business that we want and the gap that we have in maybe finance, usually we're thinking this fantastic business where we can manage and we have all these staff doing the task. Often that, for many people I speak to, that's their dream. So there's I can't afford a business like that. And there's also the knowledge gap. I've never had a business. I don't know what I don't know. And so those two fears or realities stop a lot of people from getting out and having their own business.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people gloss over a franchise network because of the term,
Yeah.
Because it's pretty common knowledge. And if you've only just started to look into franchising and you're listening to this, then maybe this isn't common knowledge to you. But when I mention the term, what that means is that there will be a franchise agreement in place between you and the franchisor. And it just sets out the rules and responsibilities for both parties to each other. It's how you're going to operate together. And that franchise agreement is governed by an overarching term, which is the length of time the agreement applies for. And so in our network, it's 5 years. In other network, in fact, I think we have one of the shortest terms in the industry, but it's very common in our particular industry for home services. It's very common to see 7 years, 10 years, even up to 20 and 30 years. And I think that what holds a lot of people back from actually considering a franchise is the fact that they really do believe that once you've signed a franchise agreement, you're stuck for that whole term. And I think that we should start thinking about this as a stepping stone instead.
Your example's perfect. The property market, it's like you sign your mortgage for 30 years. If you were of the intention that I've got to stay in this mortgage for 30 years before I can get out of this house, yet most people approach a business in that way. It's got a term in the same manner. And we go, oh, far out, it's 5 years or it's 10 years. I'm stuck there. Like, no, you're not. Just like you can sell a property, like we've had 3 or 4 mortgages, but none of them have gone anywhere near the term. And I don't expect even the current mortgage to go the term. We get rid of it as soon as possible. Same in a business. You can sell at any time. I've had a number of franchises with James. I haven't always been the owner. I entered as a franchisee myself and bought a franchise. My service franchises, I don't think I've had any of them for more than 3 years. So, I built them up and sold them, just like you would take on a house, reno it, and sell it and make a gain.
Yeah. And we have business owners in our network right now who have strongly indicated to us from a very early stage of operating their business in our network that their sole goal is to build wealth. Now, they don't mean stay for 5 years. They have figured this, what we're talking about, they've figured this out already, that they don't have to stay the 5 years.
Yeah.
They can build something with some value to it. And when I say build something with value, if you have a business that has a level of profitability to it, it has value. Yes. There will always be someone out there in the marketplace who's interested in what you have, so long as you price it accordingly. The less profitable the business, the lower the price. The more profitable the business, the higher the price. That's generally how this works. But if you have profitability, you have something of value and you can sell it. And we have business owners in our network even now who are very open about the fact that as soon as their business is worth a certain amount of money, they would be looking to sell.
Yep.
Because they see it as a way to build wealth. And I think the reason so many people are under the impression that they've got to stay in a franchise agreement for the full term is just because franchise networks aren't talking about this concept. I don't think look, I find it hard pressed to find any franchise network that will talk openly about exit strategies. And I also haven't yet found a franchise network that's willing to talk publicly about, hey, use us as a stepping stone. We don't have to be your forever. In fact, I don't know. I think you and I share the same view on this, which is that I think it's a little delusional on our part if we think that a business owner is going to stay a business owner of our network forever, right?
Yeah. Yes. We've got some that have been with us for 15 years, but so many of our franchisees that have gone on, I'm still personal friends with, stay in contact, and I could sit here and give example after example of where they have gone into bigger businesses, different businesses. But what I love about our business system that we have, our 8 steps, and that we coach to and the training in, those 8 steps are principles that can be applied anywhere. So just like the skills you learn when you reno your first home, if you use this as a stepping stone business, the skills you learn, the disciplines you learn will save you and make it much easier for you to succeed in your next business.
Yeah.
And I think, I love this concept that you suggested for today's discussion, because that's the way to look at a business like this, I think. Yes, they're a great business. It may meet all the goals and desires that you have as being, life, family balance, income, all of that. Yes, it can achieve that. But if you're looking to build significant business asset and wealth, well, this is a great place to start, like a first home, because it's low cost, it's low operational cost. If you stuff up, you're not talking big dollars. We were just talking before we started that for most dream businesses, if you're going to start, I know your partner's an engineer. So let's say he went and opened a big engineering firm, but he'd never had his own business, and bang, 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 things go wrong. You're talking millions and you've lost everything. Whereas if you start in a business like this, very low outlay, particularly under our subscription model, it's $1,000 up front. You can get in, you stuff up on a quote. Well, it took you an extra hour to do the job than what you budgeted on. Like, you've lost an hour of your time. That's sort of it's not millions out of pocket that you're talking. And I just think it's another great thing for people to really think about when they're looking at starting a business. Be wise in your choice. There's a reason why 80% of independent businesses, according to the government, fail in the first few years.
Yeah, that's where I was about to go next, actually, was that exact stat, which is that the ATO says it's 60% in the first 3 years. But when you look at the way they classify the data, in short, they're excluding a portion of businesses that are about 700,000 businesses in Australia. They exclude from their calculations because they're too small. They're not registered for GST. And so, lots of those are too small because they never get big enough to be sustainable. And so a lot of those are the ones that are also failing. So I believe, and certainly industry commentary very commonly, is that the real number is closer to 80%. And I think that what that number's telling us is that it's a lot harder to start a business and make it work than people think. And society expects that we'll just start a business and we'll DIY it and we'll be fine. And frankly, social media tells you that it's going to be easy. Let's not beat around the bush. You've got literally thousands of people on social media these days showing their business journeys, but showing the highlight reel. There's a small subset that are honest. That subset's getting bigger, and I'm really pleased about it because it is hard to start a business, and it's not something that you should DIY if you've never done it before. And I think that there's 2 sides to the stepping stone equation. One is that you can use this as a stepping stone to build wealth, but the second is that you can use this as a stepping stone to build skills.
Yes.
And it's both. that can actually help you to get where you want to go. So I think that there's a lot of people who would probably gloss over a franchise network for starters because they think they're going to be stuck. But I think the second thing that happens is that they see that a network like ours, we help people start cleaning businesses and lawn and garden care businesses, right? And I think they look at that and think, I don't want to be a cleaner. I don't want to be somebody who mows lawns. And I would like to healthily challenge that thought process and say, you don't have to be a cleaner or somebody who mows lawns forever. What we're talking about here today is the concept of starting simple with a simple service model in an industry that has established and consistent demand, where you can make a high average hourly rate with the right quoting system, where your mistakes don't cost you a lot of money, where it's a safe space to learn, where you've got systems around you supporting business growth, and where you've got a network like ours that actually works on building your skill sets as a priority, because we're planning for you to exit, and we're planning for you to be in a better position when you exit to go and do whatever it is that you want to do next with your life because of the skills you learnt with us.
Yep.
That idea of starting in something that's not just low cost, but also low risk and easy, it allows you to actually focus on building the sort of skills that are going to take you into your next business and maybe even the one after that. Because if you've got dreams of being a bigger business owner, then at some point you've probably looked at you've probably heard lots of stats thrown around like how many times people go broke before they actually make it. Behind every millionaire is somebody who's been broke 3 times, right? Who's been bankrupt 3 times. And I think that points to somebody who goes all in on their dream idea without having established the foundational understandings of how to be a business owner.
Yeah.
And so I think even if you don't care in the slightest for something like cleaning or lawn mowing, I think it still could be a really good stepping stone, as long as you genuinely care about people. You must care about people because those will be your customers. And no matter what business you want to build, you can't build a business if you don't care about your customers. So as long as you can obsess over people and delivering a great experience, I think that the service you deliver in your first business is less important than a lot of people think.
Totally agree. And to your comment about the millionaires, I've known a couple of people that have made it big and lost it all. And then, and when I look at, because I've known these people personally, all of them, if they had have known, like gone through our business training and systems and applied them, they would still be big financially. But they lost it all because we call about the simple things make a big difference. Yeah. They didn't have those in place and they crashed and burned and they picked themselves up and, went off again. But it's those things that are just so important to have in place. And then just applying them. And, you don't have to have dream business from day one. We see it. The same example applies, doesn't it? Like you see in life where people want to have the dream home and they go all in and mortgage to the hilt, have the flash car, the flashy this, the nice boat, and they crash and burn over time. They just can't sustain it.
But we're seeing that exact portion of society feeling the stress of 3 or 4 interest rate rises one after the other. It's exactly that portion of our population that's feeling the stress the most because they just over leveraged themselves. And so I guess the whole message is you don't have to start where you want to end.
Yep.
And indeed, if you start where you want to end, it's the best way to ruin the ending and never get there at all.
Yep.
Whereas if you start somewhere simple, start on the $200,000 house, start on the cleaning business, learn the ropes, make some money, sell it, Sell it when you're ready. Sell it when you want. Sell it when you feel like you've learned the skill of being a business owner enough that you can take that and apply it to whatever is next for you. Sell it for an upgrade.
Yeah, that's excellent. Totally agree.
I think I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's such a fresh perspective on franchising. And I hope anybody who's listening along, and if you've made it this far, thank you, giving us 30 minutes of your time in a day. We appreciate that. But I hope that in return, we've offered you something to really think about. And I hope that maybe we've challenged your perspective on franchising just a little. And maybe you're now looking at it through a different lens. And instead of being stuck in a term, maybe now you can look at this as a stepping stone in your journey to getting to your destination. Hopefully that has been valuable, and I hope it's been valuable enough that you're interested in tuning in for the next episode of The Real Franchise very soon.